Hi guys, very good morning. Welcome to day 10 of database automation, or day 11 of database automation. So today the concept which we gonna discuss is something related to the database. So we would like to see how we can connect to SQL Server. Meanwhile, can anyone confirm my voice is audible, screen is visible?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the concept today, which we gonna cover, is something related to database automation. So we would like to see how we can export the data from a database to Excel, import data from Excel to database, and we would like to see how we can connect to a SQL server, SQL database, and also we would like to see what are a basic sort of queries we can just execute on a database, right? So these were the concepts which we thought of covering in terms of the today's session. Okay, so without much delay, let's jump into SQL part. So before that, what I want to do is I just want to open my SQL server. So we have a management studio. Let me try to open that. Okay. So we need to just make sure that we have this particular server name details, so which will help us going forward. So I'll just keep it in the notepad. Okay, fine. So I'll just hit on connect. So which will help me to connect with a particular databases that were available here. We have different databases. I'll go with system databases here, which is related to master. Under this master, we have even lots of tables. So I'll just try to expand the existing tables here. Okay, so we have this particular data. So let me try to execute some query here to see what is the data that was available in the test one table. Okay, so select star from. So test one is the table which I want to basically execute and see what's the data that was there. Okay. Okay, fine. So we have data that was related to last name, first name, and the city, which was there inside this particular table, right? I would like to first of all extract this particular data. Okay, so which is available. So we have around like 23 rows of data, and I want to export this particular data into my Excel. So that is the first task I want to go with. Right? So for doing that, I would like to open UiPath. I would like to open the existing UiPath project. Right. So we are now in UiPath. We would like to see if the dependencies existing for the database. So I've already installed the database activities. So if you directly search for, let's say, database, Okay. So for your case, it might be not showing. In that case, you need to go to manage packages, click on all packages, search for database, and you can just install on the particular package which you are actually looking for. In some cases, what happens is you can also downgrade the versions by just selecting the versions and all. Previous versions, let's say that I want to go with 1.7.1. You can still go with the particular downgraded version. Okay. So in my case, it's already installed. So I'll just directly utilize the things. So here, the first activity I'll be trying to utilize is connect to database, which will actually connect to any sort of database. It might be SQL, it might be PostgreSQL, it might be Oracle and anything. Purely depends upon the configuration connection what we are trying to establish. Okay. So once we click on the configuration connection, so it will help you to connect with the connection wizard basically. Okay. So for the connection wizard, we basically require the SQL server details. So I just copied that. So in the data source, which sort of database you are trying to connect, I'm trying to connect with the SQL server. Okay. And here, what is the server name you are actually trying to look for? So I'm trying to look for basically this particular server. So these are the server details I'm trying to connect with. So once I hit on refresh, so you can automatically see the databases available here. It will take some time. So if I just click on drop down here, so I have got the databases available in this particular server. I'm trying to basically interact with the master database. Once I select that, I would like to click on test connection. So you can see here the test connection is succeeded. It means that you have established a connection between your UiPath to your SQL server, right? So I would like to hit on OK and hit on save. So you can see the configure connection. So this is basically the connection string utilized to connect with the SQL server here. Okay. So basically this is the connection that will help you to connect with a particular database. So in your companies, sometimes the IT team will directly give you the consent string, which you can directly paste it here, or else. So we would like to follow the steps that we have seen earlier by just connecting, utilizing the connection wizard and providing the data source details and all. Okay. I would like to show you once again how you basically connect with the database. So I'd like to delete the activity once again. Connect to database, drag and drop. So configure the connection, click on connection wizard. So here in the data source, we need to select what is the database you're trying to connect with. I'm trying to connect here with the Microsoft SQL Server, right? So here we need to provide the server details. So the server details I have captured here earlier. So I would like to hit on refresh. So automatically my particular databases related to this SQL server will be popped up here. It will just take some small time. So this were the available databases inside this particular server, right? So I would like to interact with master database and you need to hit on test connection. If it is showing green, it means that it is successful. So I would like to hit on OK, right? So once you basically hit on test, I'm like connect to database. So if we would like to take it in a flowchart, so just create. Okay. So once we hit on connect to database, what I'll do is I'll just try to save it in a variable. So I'll select SQL connect. Okay. So hit on OK. So nothing but the connection to a database is saved in a variable and the type of variable is a database connection. Okay, fine. So now we had a connect with the particular database. So now what happens once you connect, you need to write a query basically. So for that, we would like to utilize the run query. So run query helps us in trying to write a query, right? So what is the query we want to basically write here? Already we already know it, right? So it is basically select a star from test one table, right? That is the query we are trying to actually write. So we already have the existing connection. So existing connection is a SQL connect. Okay. So I would like to write the query once again. What is the query? So we are trying to write select from test one, right? Nothing but the same query what we have written here. We are trying to utilize that. Okay. Fine. So once we write the query, the data is basically form of rows and columns. So you are storing your data in a variable called DT1. Okay. Fine. So we have connected to a database. We have written a query so that we have got the data. And after getting the data, what we need to do? So we need to write it back to the Excel. So I would like to utilize an activity, a right range workbook. I'm trying to write the data in a file called db.xlsx. So it's basically test one data, and the data you're trying to write is DT1, right? And we would like to make sure that we are trying to add the headers too, so that you will try to get last name, first name, and city data, right? So we have connected to a database, we have written the query so that it's stored in data table, and that data table data we are trying to write it back to the Excel. And after writing that, it is always a best practice to disconnect from the database. So we would like to utilize disconnect from database, and the database activity uh, we are trying to pass here is a SQL connect. So we have already existing connection here. So that connection is utilized in run query, and the same connection is also utilized in disconnect from database, right? So this were the steps we would like to see, and let us try to run the file to see if we are able to get the data written back to our particular Excel. Okay, so let's try to go to the project folder. Under the project folder, it will try to create a db.xlsx file. Yes, it has created. So let's try to open it. See, this is the data which we are able to write it from your particular database to next. Right. So that is one thing. So let's see if we have any queries as of now. I think we are good. Right. So we would like to write some other queries like insert, update, and delete. So how to utilize those queries? Uh, let's try to take help of ChatGPT to make it a bit faster. So what is the data we have? Basically, we have data in terms of last name, first name, and the city, right? So we would like to utilize the same columns and see if we can extract some, write some queries here. The last name, first name, and the city. So create SQL queries for insert, update, and delete for the following schema. Yeah, fine. So we have some three queries here. I would like to first utilize insert. So I'll just copy the code. Okay. So let's jump here and try to execute the same thing. So insert into basically we have test one, right? So this is test one. So where we are trying to insert these particular values. Okay. So we have currently 24 rows of data, right? So after executing this particular query, let's see if we are able to execute or insert some data. So we can see here one rows got affected, right? So let's try to execute this select command so that we can see now here the 25 rows of data was there. So earlier it was 24 rows, but it was now 25 rows, right? So what we'll try to do is I would like to update Louis 3 John 3 value, which is not existing here. And we would like to utilize the same command here in UiPath. Okay. So for that, we also require this run query. Sorry. So we don't require these two activities, run query and write range. So I'll try to just disconnect the connections. Okay. To the same database we are utilizing, right? So I would like to utilize the same connect to database. So after which we have activity called run command, right? So I would like to utilize this run command. So what is basically the difference between a run query and a run command? So run command executes a SQL statement on a database for update, insert, and delete statements. The return value is number of rows affected by the command. Okay. So basically, if you try to utilize run command, it will try to utilize insert, update, and delete queries. But if it is run query, executes a query on a database and returns a query result as a data table. So here the outcome is data table, but in the run command, the outcome is basically the rows got affected, nothing but it gives you an integer value. It says like 3, 4, 5. So how many rows got affected due to this particular activity? So that is what the run command does. But the run query will try to hit the particular database. Okay, and it will try to provide you the data which is stored in a particular data table. Right? It stores the data basically. So that's the basic difference. So let's try to go to the properties. So we already have the existing connection. What is existing connection? It is SQL Connect. We'll try to use the same SQL Connect. So what is the command you are trying to go with? What is the SQL query you're trying to utilize? So I would like to utilize this particular new values, which is related to DOE3 and John 3. And it's in the double quotes. We are trying to execute this particular query. Okay. So this is the query we are trying to utilize. So now we had made existing connection and let's see how many rows got affected here. So since we are trying to uh, utilize a single query, and it was for insert, it will try to say that the affected rows is only one because you're trying to insert only one value. So it will say like the affected records are basically one. Okay. Let's try to connect with the disconnect from the database. If I see here in the database, I have only 25 rows. So after executing this, we would like to see the data has been updated to 26 rows. So it's not trying to do on the UI interface of database. It is trying to do in the background of the database. So it's not writing the query there. It's trying to interact with the database in the backend. Okay. Let's see, it shows that it's been affected with one record. Okay. So now let's try to see the select star from test one and see how many rows we have basically. If you can see here, we have now 26 rows. Okay. So that is one scenario. So what is the second query we can try to utilize? We have something called update people, select cities, Los Angeles and all, right? So I'd like to copy. So we have where the first name and the last name is Doi. We have Doi 2 data, right? Okay, so let's say Doi 2 and John 2. Okay, so what is the data for Doi 2 and John 2 here? So we have data as we have city here as Dallas, right? But we want to update that to Los Angeles. So let me try to execute this particular query. Execute here. Okay, we have something called test one, right? So our table name is test one. Fine. So let's try to update here. So it says that one rows got affected. So let's try to execute and see what is the data here. So if you can see earlier, the data was Dallas, and now we have data called as Los Angeles. So maybe I'm like, it's not that every time it will try to go with a single thing. We can also update it for multiple values too. So how we can do that? What we'll do is, so we would like to say if your city basically, okay, if your city is Hyderabad, HYD, so set basically the last name as Kiran, let's say. Okay. So this is my query which I want to execute. So let's try to execute here and see how many records got affected. Yes, we can see 19 records got affected. See here, wherever it was Hyderabad, it was getting updated to last name as Kiran, right? So now I would like to just say it was like hyper automation underscore AI, right? So this is the data I want to go with. I said, are you using ChatGPT 4? It's paid version. Yes, I'm using ChatGPT 4. It's a paid version. Fine. So let me just jump into our UiPath to run the command. So under the properties, we have a new command here. I mean, like new query. So this is our particular query. So update test one, where city is basically, I mean, like update test one, where we are trying to set the last name as Hyperautomation AI, where the city is Hyderabad, right? So let's try to hit it. And if you can see here, the existing data we have here for Hyderabad, the data is like Kiran, right? But let's try to update it with I'll try to run it again. It was still Kiran, but let's try to execute it from UiPath and see what data we can go with. Right, we have got 19 records got affected here. If I just go to again here and try to execute our particular query, you can see that wherever it was Hyderabad, it was updated to Hyperautomation AI, right? So now we would like to just delete something using some existing queries. So I'd like to copy the code, come back here. So it's
One
not from
question.
people. Yes, please.
In run command, if we keep select query, what is the output? You said number of rows. It will get number of rows affected, right? For select query, what will be the output?
Silk query, it was data table basically. So let me open that UiPath. So we have here already written the run query, right?
Hmm.
So in the run query, if you can see here, the output is basically data table.
For run command, we use select query means what is the output we will
It
get?
won't take.
It won't take. Okay, okay.
So it basically goes run command goes with only insert updated delete. If you can just hover on the activities also. So execute an SQL statement on database for insert, update, and delete statements.
Okay,
The
okay,
written value is the number of rows affected by the command.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, right. So now we are trying to see on the delete, right? So what I want to do is, so we have DOE2 and we have John2, right? So this is the row we are trying to just delete. So we are trying to say the last name is DOE2 and the first name is John2. I want to delete the particular row basically, right? So let me just try to delete here, execute. Yes, the one row got affected. So select start from. So we can see here we have only 25 rows. Earlier it was 26 rows. And we don't see here the value related to DOE2. We can also delete the DOE3 value. So let's say we have DOE3, we have John 3, right? So let me just try to execute. Yes, one row got affected. So earlier it was 25 rows, but now we can see here it was only 24 rows of data, right? So now what I want to do is I want to delete data uh, where it says as Hyderabad. Okay. So where the let's say last name is Hyperautomation AI. So if the last name is Hyperautomation AI, so please delete the particular data. So how many rows we have in terms of Hyperautomation AI? We have around like 19 rows. So let's see that if that particular n number of rows. It's not that only a single row can be deleted. It can also work on multiple rows too. So delete stuff from test one where the last name is Hyperautomation AI, right? So let me write to run the file. So we can see that 19 rows got affected. If I see here, it was 24 rows earlier. So if I try to go with the select query execution, it is now only 5 rows of data, right? So it is only having 5 rows of data. Fine. So this is something how you can go with insert, update, and delete queries. And we have seen how to export the data from database to an Excel, and we have seen how to connect to a database, and we have gone through how basically we can interact using a run query and a run command. So run query will give you outcome in terms of data table, but run query, but run command will basically give your outcome in terms of number of affected rows, which is basically an integer value. Right? So let's now try to import the data from Excel to database. Let's say I have some data here, right? So you have last name and first name. So I would like to write it back here in this particular. So I would like to say like, so it is basically hyper automation underscore AI, and the first name is, so basically let's say we would like to write as like here path one. Okay, city is like Hyderabad. Okay, so here I would like to write as like your path two and Hyderabad. Okay, so we have some good number of rows. We have around like 23 rows of data, and I want to update this particular data into that particular database. Right. So how to do that? So we have sheet one. So let's jump into your path. So what we will try to do is we will just try to take this records aside. Okay. So first, before connecting to database, I would like to read the data. So I'm trying to read the data from a read range workbook activity. Right. So what data you want to read? I want to read it from a DB. What is the sheet name? It's basically sheet one. So where you're trying to store the data and trying to store the data in DD1. Okay. So range you can just keep it empty so that it will try to read all the rows of data. Fine. So we have data stored in a variable called DD1. So let me try to open database. So we have insert command. So what basically insert will try to do? Inserts a compatible data table in an existing database table. Right? So that is what it will try to do. Right. So basically I'm trying to insert the data. So here we would like to see how many rows are getting inserted. Let's say so dt1 dot rows count. We are just saying how many rows we are trying to insert basically. And in the insert, we would like to say the existing connection is SQL Connect. Okay. So what is the input data table? The input data table is basically DT1. So what is the target table name? So what is your target table name? It's basically test one, right? So test one is the table we are trying to utilize it from the application. So how many rows got affected? So here it will say like how many rows got affected using an integer variable. So let's see. Basically the affected rows, right? Int affected rows. So this is my agenda. So we are trying to read the data from an Excel. So trying to get the count. So connecting to a database. So inserting the data basically from data table to a database table and seeing how many records got affected, and we are just trying to print that and disconnecting from the database. Right. So let me try to run the file. The process cannot because it's been used by another process. Okay, fine. So I think the Excel is opened. It will not work in the workbook activities. So let's save all, try to run the file. So we can see here that we have around like 23 records getting affected, and the same 23 records got updated in the table too. So let me try to go with select the start from table. So we can see here hyperautomation Hyderabad values got affected. So earlier it was 5 rows, but after inserting another 25 rows, we have around 23 rows. We have around like 28 rows of data. Right. So that is how we can export, like or import data from these particular queries. Any queries as of now, please do let us know. Hope we are good on this particular things, right? Right.
Yes, Kiran.
Right. So we have still some 15 minutes of time, uh, where I would like to just show some data table activities which will help us. I'll try to go with the new flow chart. So test.
I have a question. What if I want to connect my SQL database? In that case, the configuration should be different.
The configuration changes from database to database basically. So let's say I have here utilized connect database, right? So you need to provide the connection with your data. So let's say that I'm trying to access the database access file. You have something in your particular Microsoft Access, you can do that. If it is SQL Server, you can do that. You can SQL database file directly, you can do that. If it's Oracle, you can utilize this. If it is Post SQL and all, you can utilize ODBC data source. So here, how can we know that it's something related to the things you can connect with your IT team? They will help you out with your data source. So automatically here it will select your particular data provider name, and you need to provide your server name and all, which will uh, be there with your IT team. So where is my particular server name? So this is my server name basically.
Okay.
So I've
For
just
OD,
pasted. Sorry.
I have one question. For ODBC means which SQL we have to connect. ODBC database means which,
ODBC database, I'm like, see, so we have different types of databases, right? So each
Um,
database requires some data serve. I'm like a particular details to connect with the things and all. So I
server.
will, yes. So here I was saying, right, the data source is basically, in my case, it was SQL Server. Okay.
Yes.
So in some cases, it can be ODBC data source also, or it can be direct database file, or it can
Oh,
be access file, or it can be Oracle database file. So in that
oh,
cases, you need to select the appropriate option here. So how can I know
okay.
that I need to select this appropriate option? So that can be given by your IT team.
Okay.
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 Fine. So let me just jump into our test to utilize some sort of database, sorry, data table activities. So I'd like to show some two, three data table activities and we'll just find out. Uh, we would like to show something related to lookup data table. So for that, what I'll do is I'll try to read data directly from the Excel. So read range workbook. So what is the data you're trying to read? So desktop, sorry, it's not on desktop. It's on a particular folder itself. It's DB file. So what's the data? It's on sheet one. I want to read the data. So what's the range? I want to read whole data. I'd like to provide double quotes. So where you're storing the data, I want to store the data in a data table. So it is basically on the DT1, right? So I've read some data. Fine. So what I want to do is, let me open the particular file. I would like to add some duplicate data. So I have some duplicate data. So how many rows of data we have basically here? So I have 27 rows of data, right? So I have added some four duplicate rows of data. I want to delete that particular things. So for that, what I want to do? So we have something called remove duplicates. Okay. So we have a remove duplicate rows. So which will help us in removing the duplicate rows. So we are trying to have the data in DT1. So after deleting the particular duplicate rows, I want to store it in the same DT1. So before using duplicate rows, I want to see what is the uh, count of the particular thing. I'll use a message box count of the rows. Basically, I would like to go with the DT1 dot rows count. Okay. And after deleting that, I would like to see the rows count. Okay. So why we need to remove the duplicate rows and all? Let's say that I'm trying to process loan applications for the downloaded data. So sometimes what we will try to do is like we are not aware whether the first application got submitted successfully or not. The user might again enter the same data to just submit another application. So though you process the same data multiple times, your CIBIL score doesn't update, right? So if you search initially with the same details, like Kiran is looking for some loan for 10 lakhs with his salary of XYZ, so you will get a CIBIL score of let's say 780. But the same data you enter multiple times, you would try to get the same CIBIL score of 780, right? So here, in order to like process the same data multiple times, we would like to take some precautionary actions in our real-time projects also, where we would like to remove the duplicate rows. So we want to make sure that the data is unique for processing to avoid the same transaction being processed multiple times without using this particular query, right? So that is the intention of utilizing this remove duplicate rows. So let me try to run the file. So we have 26 rows of data earlier, but after deleting the duplicate rows, we have only 23 rows of data. Okay. So that is how and where you can directly utilize the powerful remove duplicate rows, right? So now what I want to do is I want to basically want to get let's say I have the first name as UiPath 11. Okay, I'm trying to update the value here as like Bangalore. Okay, and also I would like to update here the Chennai value. For UiPath 17 and for UiPath 11, we have different values. Okay, so I would like to enter this UiPath 17 value. For the corresponding city, I need to get the values. So for that, we have something called lookup data table. So we are trying to pass basically in your whole data table a value called UiPath 17. For that, you are trying to get the city, right? So we are trying to get something related in terms of lookup data table. Let's see how we can utilize this lookup data table activity. Right. So we have already read the data. So whatever the value I'm trying to enter here is basically your first name. So based on the first name, I want to get the city, right? So how can we achieve that? First of all, I want to enter that value using input dialog. So I am trying to say that enter first name to get the city. Okay. So where you are trying to store the value. So I'm trying to store the value in str first name. Okay. So we have a value now first name in a variable called str first name. So let me utilize lookup data table to get the value now. So search for the value basically. So in which data table you are trying to get the value? Search for the value. I'm trying to see it in a DT1 data table. So what is the lookup value? So lookup value is basically first name. Okay. And what is the lookup column? So this is your lookup column. First name is my lookup column. So here in the column name, I'm trying to provide the lookup first name. So what is your target column? So my target column is basically city. So I'm trying to get the city value basically. So that is my target column name. Okay. So what is the value you're trying to get outcome? We can get two values. So one is a cell value and also the row index. So what is row index? It will say that if I enter UFR 17, it will say that at the position of 18th, your value is existing. Okay. But I want to get only the value. This is nothing but a cell value. So what I will say it is strcp. So control K, strcp is what I am trying to extract the data for the corresponding first name. Okay. So I'm trying to store the value in the first strcp. So what I'll do here is I would like to say uh, first name str first name plus city is basically this is the value plus str city. Okay. So what is the data I'm trying to pass? I'm trying to pass is here path 17, right? So let's see whether we'll get Chennai if I'm passing your path 11. I would like to get the Bangalore as well. Let's see. Let me try to run the file and see if we are able to get these things or not. So let me just save the file, try to run the file. Right. It was asking me to enter the first name to get the city. Right. So this is my first name, UiPath 17. So it says that UiPath 17 city is basically Chennai. Right. So again, I will try to run. We know that UiPath 11 is basically having a value of Bangalore. So it says that UiPath 11 city is Bangalore. And rest we can say that it was Hyderabad. So let me try to utilize 18 where you will get Hyderabad as well. Right. So this is how and where you can utilize lookup data table. Right. So somebody is asking some queries. So can I automate WhatsApp like I want to store the text? It's not advisable. So I have a similar question on MongoDB. Does your path have activities that supports the same? Yes, it supports. Yeah, it we need to just go with interacting using the same connect to database using a different data source. Here my data source is SQL Server. For MongoDB, what is the data source? We need to search and we just need to provide the details as expected. Right. So this is how we can just utilize lookup data. So we have
Sir,
seen
one
two
question.
activities. Yes, please.
Sir, difference between the lookup and VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP.
So yeah, a lookup is a vertical lookup and a horizontal lookup is what we can try to see here in terms of Excel. But here in UiPath, it supports only a horizontal lookup here.
Okay. It won't support VLOOKUP.
No, no.
Thank you.
But you can still write the queries and all. You can still write the macros and you can execute that. See here,
Okay.
it's the horizontal lookup and it's something where you can go with the vertical lookup and all. So it depends, but here it supports normal horizontal lookup.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, this is the concept we thought of explaining it today. If you have any queries, please do let us know. We'll be there for next couple of minutes. If not, we'll just wind up the session as of today. Any queries as of now, please do let us know. Please do practice also. If you have any doubts, please do reach out personally to us because we don't want to open the chat window to make it spam. If I any queries, don't hesitate to reach out to us in terms of WhatsApp or as LinkedIn. We are definitely there to help you out. Right? Anything
Okay.
else?
Okay, sure.
It sounds good. I think we are just winding up for today. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll meet tomorrow.
Thanks, Kiran. Thanks, everyone.